Hello, and welcome to the 13.0 CET Migration Webinar. For those who haven't attended a migration webinar before, keep in mind that this webinar is only a supplement to the migration guide. The bulk of the information you will need is found in the migration guide itself. This webinar's purpose is to provide some additional explanation and context for certain changes that need it. For 13.0, the migration guide is available from the address on screen now. For a general guide on migrating and the extension sign-off, you can use the help article available from this address. In a future version of CET, we will release a new user-facing feature called the Simplify DWG. While this feature isn't available to users in 13.0, there is a supporting technology available for developers to take advantage of called the Compact Feature Search, or CFS. This is a new and optimized system for performing feature searching, and is used by anything that uses or extends the feature search class. By default, CFS works off 2D graphs, just as before, so no changes are required to be compatible with the new system. However, if you have a snapper that should be feature searchable and also has very complex 2D graphics, there is a new interface available on Snapper that allows you to manually specify the snapper's searchable features. It is assumed this situation is quite rare, as most snappers will not see a noticeable performance improvement from this optimization. If you are unsure whether or not you should incorporate this new feature into your code, you probably shouldn't. In 12.5 and earlier, it was possible to provide a narrowing type as a return type for an overridden method. Unfortunately, this option comes at the cost of significant runtime performance, as the compiler cannot make safe type assumptions, and must overcompensate to keep type safety promises. To handle this, while still allowing for developer flexibility, CM will eventually require a new keyword when using a narrowing override. The new narrow keyword will be required in order to perform this override. This new keyword will allow the compiler and runtime to perform heavier optimizations and improve the performance when looking at methods. This new keyword is available in 13.0, but not yet required. It is, however, recommended to start using this new keyword, as it will ease the transition when it does become required. To make it easier to find these cases, there is a flag that can be set in the compiler to generate warnings or errors. Setting this flag to 1 will generate a warning for cases that should use narrow, and 2 will generate actual errors. This simulates how the compiler will behave when the feature is required. Starting in 13.0, it will be an error to reuse an argument's name for a different argument when overriding a method. Allowing this was not only confusing to developers, but also the runtime and compiler. When invoking a method set up this way, the runtime and compiler were forced to perform a kind of pattern matching against all versions of a method in order to find a match. Removing this possibility of renaming arguments this way simplifies things substantially. However, this can be improved even further. By disallowing the arguments to be renamed at all, the runtime and compiler can perform even deeper optimizations. So, in a future version of CM, renaming arguments at all will be disallowed. As with the narrowing change, it is possible to set a compiler flag to simulate this future behavior. Note that setting this flag to 4 will sufficiently simulate what will happen when the restriction is enforced. Enums flagged as bitsets have received a handful of fixes. For those of you that are unaware, enums can have the decorator bitset added to them to allow them to behave more like bitfield flags in other languages. However, there have been several issues with them that have made them difficult to work with. Previously, if you combined these flags in such a way that the underlying value was greater than the value of the largest entry, a crash would occur. To get around this, developers would add an arbitrarily large dummy enum entry. However, that error has been fixed, so the dummy value is no longer necessary. Also, there was an issue with the automatic assignment of backend values. Previously, the automatically generated values would begin at 0 and increment by 1, just like normal enums. The problem with this is that these numbers won't work when acting as a bit set, so developers were forced to manually specify the values for all entries. In 13.0, enums have been changed to instead create automatic values from powers of 2 when marked as a bit set. This removes the need to manually specify these values in most cases. Lastly, it wasn't possible to use field-like checks against bit set enums. This is working as of 13.0. Another user-facing feature, the extra items added to a snapper's right-click menu are also available from the Edit menu when the snapper is selected. In order to accomplish this, there is a gradual interface change in the works. As of 13.0, the pop-up menu items method on Snapper is deprecated. It is still available for now, but in 13.5 it will be removed entirely. There is now a new method available called context menu items, which serves the same purpose. Note that it has the same return type, so if you aren't using the provided arguments, you can get away with simply updating the method header. Alright, that's it. If you're watching this video live, now's the time for questions. Otherwise, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in 13.0.